Welcome to week 2 and day 1 of our 1 John series devotional. Today we are going to look a little bit more at 1 John, but before we do that, each week we're going to try to come to you also with a memory verse. And this is again just to increase our biblical knowledge, to increase our biblical understanding, to give us more time in the Word of God, and to seek to memorize something together. So this week, our memory verse is going to be from the Gospel of John, John chapter 1 and verse 1. John 1:1 in the ESV says this: "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." Obviously, this capital W word that they're talking about is Jesus, and there's a lot of amazing truths worked into just that one simple verse talking about who Jesus is, the eternal nature of Jesus, and things like that. But again, John 1:1 in the ESV is our memory verse this week, so we hope that you'll seek to memorize that together with us. And today in day 1, we want to focus in on experiencing God. In 1 John 1 through 4, John talked a lot about these experiences that he had with God, experiencing God in his different senses. He talked specifically about hearing God, seeing, looking, touching, proclaiming God. He used all these words multiple times in just the first few verses of 1 John chapter 1. And so when we think about this idea of experiencing God, I'm curious, and our question to begin with is this: when you hear about this idea of experiencing God through your senses, what does that mean to you? What does it bring up in you? Past experiences, current experiences, but experiencing God with your senses, what kind of thoughts does that bring up for you? When we look in the scriptures, we see that there are different ways that people experienced God all throughout the Old and the New Testaments. And the same is true for us. We experience God in different ways. Some experience God deeply in prayer. Others experience God in a worship service with other people. This past summer, we got to go to the Challenge Conference, and honestly, it's hard to not experience God in those moments where you're with thousands of other people worshiping the same God in this arena together. But that's a way that I experience God. And maybe somebody was in that room not experiencing God in the same way, because for them, they actually connect with God more deeply out in nature rather than inside in an arena with a bunch of people. And so we experience God in different ways. Others, maybe you experience God most when you're actively running, or you're playing a sport, or you're serving other people. The question for you is, as we think about, again, experiencing God in different ways with different senses, what is one way that you think that you can or have experienced God's presence in your life? Go ahead and take a moment and think through that, maybe journal an answer, or if you're doing this together with someone else, take some time to talk that together with them. One thing we know about our relationship with God is it was never meant to just be something we know intellectually. Our understanding of God was never just meant to be head knowledge about Him, but very much something that we know by experience as well. Faith is not disconnected from reality. Faith is not disconnected from knowledge or emotion. It's actually emboldened and deepened as we see and feel and hear and experience and study God. So the question that we come to here as we kind of wrap up our day 1 devotional is, how can you use your senses to experience God in a different way than you normally would, or maybe normally have in the past? Again, how can you use your senses to experience God in a different way than maybe you normally have? And we want to encourage you, even consider asking an adult in your life, maybe a parent or a small group leader or your pastor, for help in coming up with some ways, or even putting something into practice about how you might be able to experience God in a different sort of way. So take some time right now and think through how can you use your senses to experience Him in a different way than you have maybe in the past? Hey, thanks for joining us for day one of our week 2 1 John devotional, and we look forward to seeing you next time as we continue these devotionals together. We hope it's been a helpful thing for you. And again, share it with others, do it together with others. We're better together. And so we encourage you to do that. And if you are doing this on your own, consider sharing what you're learning with somebody else. So again, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.